Today we're going to talk about the creative process, how to avoid burnout, how we critique each other creatively, and much, much more. Or maybe not much, much more, but much more. Or maybe just more. Let's dive right into it. Let's jive.
Let's jump and jive.
Let's jump and jive right into it. Why not? Okay, the creative process. There is something very personal about creating something.
Yes.
For someone, for yourself, doesn't matter what. I feel like we've talked about this a lot before, where it feels like the things that we make, especially when you're sharing them, it's like kind of a part of us, and it can be really terrifying sending it off to somebody, right?
It's an extension of yourself.
Right.
It's like, this is how I see the world. This is how I want to make this and create it. And then now I'm putting it out there for people to see. Yeah.
Right. Would you say that it's scarier to put it out there for people to see, or to actually give it to the person who hired you to make it?
Oh, giving it to the person for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's pressure, as there should be, because you care. You want to make sure that what you deliver is what they wanted.
Right.
And I think at that point it's kind of nerve-wracking, because hopefully you will have learned we're a good fit for each other. I'm going to be able to deliver what they want.
Yeah.
They want what I do.
Right.
There's that mutual thing there. So hopefully by the end you will be able to send that off and go, okay, I'm confident they're going to love this. But even then it feels
terrifying.
like
Yeah. And so when you don't hear back from anybody for 24 hours, 48 hours, you start to
second guess everything. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think because it's so personal, it seems like there's an element of making sure, and I think it gets thrown, I want to make sure I'm the right fit for you, you're the right fit for me when you're doing work. But there is something to that, because so much of what I'm creating is based on my kind of perception and of the world, really. And like it becomes that element of myself. And so making sure that you're working with a client that knows that and knows you as best they can and can do that. So do you think it's important, would you say, if somebody was asking you, maybe it was me asking you, I don't know, that it's important, how important, to what extent, I guess, to be on that same page with your client? I
think it's vital. It's like, because especially with what we do, there's so many photographers, there's so many videographers, not as many videographers, but still, like, because it's such a personal thing, you're hiring a person and you're hiring what they do, and it is an extension of themselves. So if someone doesn't vibe with me, if my work doesn't speak to them, if somehow our personalities are just kind of off with each other, they would be far better off finding someone that's a better fit for them. So the product that I'm giving is an extension of me, but it's also, during that whole process, I'm feeding off of what the client is giving me as far as inspiration and just, and so if we're kind of in this thing together, that's when we're going to be able to produce our best work. But if from the beginning it's just something that's off there, it's better for us to kind of go our separate ways, I think.
So obviously that's ideal. Right. But we're also running a business.
Exactly.
And so we can't always just choose the clients that we think are going to be the best fit. So can you think of a time when you've been in working with a client that you're like, oh, we're not on the same page, but I'm in it. Yep. How do you continue through that? You know what I mean?
I mean, you just have to really hear them. What are they looking for? I don't want to compromise what I do, because that's difficult as far as like I'm not going to totally change my style based on what they want. Yeah. But there are situations where you do have to, like, okay, what are you guys looking for? It's kind of
it's tough.
A weird situation for sure.
Yeah, it is. I think it's where you're, like you said, you're listening as best you can, and you're trying to do what they're hoping to get and put your own spin on it. Because if you are trying to create something that is not your in your lane,
wheelhouse, or whatever
you want to call it, then you will have no grasp on it as you go forward. Yeah. Whereas if you go, okay, they want this, and I'm here, so I'm going to do my best version of this, but I'm going to stay kind of true to what I do, then at least you may not, hopefully you can still make them happy. It may not be exactly what they wanted, but hopefully you can, and really those, I didn't finish my sentence, but really those, and then I spit on you when I was talking, really those, kind of a mess. Those projects push you creatively sometimes more than the ones that are like in your wheelhouse.
Right.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yes, that's true. I had a thought in your whole spitting thing.
I ruined it off. Ruined it. That's okay. Keep going.
I think especially when you're dealing with any clients, what I really want to do is manage their expectations. From the beginning, but also through the process.
Right.
And if I feel any hint of like, oh, could you do this? And I know that's not what I do, or that's not at all my style. I want to communicate that. And at least it's almost like in a weird way, it's an education process for both of us to be able to go, oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to, if someone sends me like a Pinterest photo or something.
Right.
It's like, well, let's look at all the scenarios that made this picture happen.
Right.
Your wedding is in a field. This wedding was by the ocean. Yeah. It's not, we're not going to be able to accomplish this. So I think like being honest and talking through expectations all throughout too is really important.
And sometimes figuring out what it was about that they loved.
Yes.
And you realize, it has nothing to do with the ocean. It was the whatever on their face. And you,
okay,
well, we could do that.
Right.
Yeah, that does take some work. And
especially when it comes to a wedding, because this is new for people.
Right.
Like, it's like we're planning our wedding. We don't know what to expect. And so I love being a resource. I love working with people at the beginning of the process to make sure I'm the best fit for them.
Right.
But then also like to hear what's important to them, to help them through it, like to help them know what to expect.
Yeah.
I just think that's important.
Yep.
And I mean, they call it a creative process.
Right.
For a reason.
For a reason.
Yeah. You said it, we have a business, so you're not always going to be able to work with clients that totally get you, that are on board from the beginning. So for you, how do you kind of navigate, especially sometimes for you, you're not only working with the client who's paying for the product, but also maybe a marketing team.
For sure.
There's a lot of people.
In the commercial realm, yeah, definitely. And I just think, you kind of mentioned it, but being on the same page as best you can with everybody who's involved is really important. And then making sure that you're expressing why you do what you do. And I think that's really important as anybody in the creative to know why it is that you do what you do. Why do I want to shoot this handheld, or why do I want to shoot this on a gimbal, or whatever that may be, and have an answer and be able to defend, this is why I take you here for sunset, or this is why I don't want to stay at your venue, or whatever. And being able to express that, not in a way that's pushy, but in a way that can...
It's confident.
Can exactly it's display, I know what I'm talking about, and I know why I want to do this. And then if they have a disagreement with that, or go, no, I don't want that, then at least they know where you are coming from. And so then going forward, you're not always thinking, oh, this would have looked way better, and they don't understand what I want. So it's just being able to communicate that, I think, is really difficult. Easier said than done, but important in that process.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes, it's so fascinating to me how when it comes to like a creative brain person, we can, because we hold what we do so closely, we can, there's some insecurity there, or at least some like, I'm all in with this, but I hope they like it. I hope they're there too, because you care. It's that funny line between that and having that sort of fragile feeling, and then being really confident and knowing what, being satisfied with what you do.
And being confident is important, but it's really interesting because I think in the creative process, you hear people talk about imposter syndrome, where you go to a shoot and you feel like, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? And you hear that from people who clearly know what they're doing. They're making Hollywood movies, or they're these high-end photographers, and they're still having that. I think an element of that is really good. But I think that's something that in any creative industry, you're going to feel that, where it's like, I feel like I'm telling somebody, I can do this and I can do this, and I don't have that confidence. But to your point, it's really important to display that confidence, right? And
it's not arrogance.
Right, exactly.
It's confidence in what you do and the decisions you make. And that to me comes from experience.
And I think I 100% agree with you. And I think a big difference between those two is arrogance says, I know what I'm doing. This is what we're going to do, period.
Yeah.
Whereas confidence says, this is why we're going to do this. This is why I think we should do it. But listens, like you said, and they go,
Yes.
I really don't want to. Then confidence says, okay, well, we'll go wherever you want and I'm going to make it work there, you know, what I mean?
Right.
or as best I can.
Arrogance leads to you not learning anything. You need humility.
Right.
And the understanding that I can always be better. I can always do better.
Right. Yes.
That's crucial to
Yeah.
getting better at what you do.
Yeah.
But then also having the confidence in what you've done and the experience that you've had to make your clients feel at ease.
Yes. Yeah. That's well said.
What do you do when you're stuck creatively?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's a number of different things that can help you with that. I mean, from one single project that you're in the middle of and you're stuck, stopping obviously can make a big difference. Going to run or work out or just taking a break or doing something else can be a big difference. But in a larger scale, when maybe you're 2 or 3 projects deep and you just feel this lack of creativity, that can be a big challenge. And I think it brings up the importance of personal projects.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And doing things that are just for you, that are answering to nobody, that are things that you can try something you've never done before or push it in a direction you've never gone before. And so that's so good for kind of rejuvenating those
Yes.
creative batteries.
Yes, for sure. I totally can attest to that. I think the summer in the middle of wedding season, you know, that can be a time for us where we need to like reset or sort of like, you know, because it's every weekend and it's just kind of a crazy time for us, but we have to be on.
Yeah.
And so this summer, when I shot photos for my brother to promote his music, and it was such a great. I mean, we shot for maybe a half an hour, and it was so rejuvenating for me to be able to just direct him, to see it in my mind, to get all excited about different light, different things I wanted to try, and there were no restrictions. You know, that was so energizing and so necessary, and then I was able to like kind of reset and get creative again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Those are so important. I think maybe sometimes people don't realize the toll that it takes to do what we do, especially in weddings. Burnout is kind of a common thing for vendors in the wedding industry.
Right.
Because emotionally, mentally, creatively, physically, it's all demanding. And so we love it and it's amazing, but you have to be able to like refuel in order to keep going.
A large part of the reason I started a commercial business along with the wedding business was just because doing 20 plus weddings a year and spending all of my time in weddings, I just felt like I was losing my mind a little bit, my creative edge, if anything. And so being able to have commercial clients and doing things that are totally the opposite really kind of helped me sharpen. The weddings helped me sharpen that, but then those helped me really kind of sharpen my creativity in weddings and give me kind of a renewed excitement and energy to go back into them. And so when the off season comes, it's great to try to ramp up non-wedding work, whether it's photos, you know, for your brother or whatever, but doing stuff that is not in that world to kind of help you think differently.
Yep. And it's really funny how getting your mind out of weddings makes you excited about getting back into them.
Totally, yes.
And it gives me new ideas and new things I want to try. And so it's really important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what are some of the things you do to get unstuck creatively?
Yeah. Music is really helpful for me. As you know, I'm an introvert, so I need some quiet. I need to like, you know, refuel that way and recharge my batteries. So that helps me, especially if I've been editing nonstop and it just feels like, okay, I need to walk away from this, which you mentioned. Yeah. Those things are really helpful for me too, walking away from it and then coming back with a clear head.
your personal state of mind that you're in, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you haven't
Yes.
worked out. I mean, there's all sorts of things that will affect your mood.
Not
and again,
eating.
yeah,
That's one for
helpful.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
But like we said at the beginning, it's such a personal thing. And so when you are kind of out of whack personally, it makes it really difficult to work.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that's interesting about being in the creative world as opposed to other fields where it's like, it can't be like, I'm really tired, whatever, I'm just going to show up and
Right.
do my work.
Well, math is math, right? So no matter how I feel, math is still going to be the same.
Right, exactly.
But what we're doing is so
Yeah.
unique and different every time
Right.
that you have to be
Very
on.
subjective. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think that's that makes it really an interesting and a challenging thing. And we've maybe mentioned this before, but there are days where what I accomplish in 3 hours, I accomplish the next day in a half an hour.
Yes.
Because when you're on, it just starts
Yep.
rolling.
Yeah.
So-
It's almost like it's kind of a manic thing where
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, oh, I just have to keep going. I'm in the zone. I'm going. And then
right.
there are times where it's like, okay, I need to walk away from this
Yeah,
for a little
yeah.
bit and then come back. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It is. We're crazy people. We're crazies.
Yeah. Well,
Then here we are. Oh, and there's a cat.
I would love to hear what other people do when they get stuck creatively. I'm sure like other people resonate with this. I know people who I've
Definitely.
talked to.
Yeah. Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Oh, a pun. A cat pun. Well, as you may hear in the background, there's a baby crying and also a cat that won't leave us alone. So I think this is as good a time as any to
Call
wrap
it
this
quits.
episode up. We're trying to keep these episodes to about 15 minutes so
Yeah.
that they're smaller, shorter.
We haven't done a good job
A
so
terrible
far.
job. Hopefully this one's a little shorter. If you actually came to our dining room table, you would be here for hours on end because we both talk way too much. But hopefully we can keep these a little bit more concise. And now you can get it on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play and Stitcher and TuneIn and YouTube. So there's really no excuse for anybody not to watch or listen, right?
I think they could come up with one or two
Two excuses. Like it's not that interesting.
And listening to a baby cry in the background.
The production
is
value
not
needs
very
some work.
entertaining.
No, it needs some work.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening or watching or however you consume
If you've
this.
made it this far, congrats.
Yeah. God bless you. Cheers. Cheers.